Let's get a sense of who's joining us today. So if you are full-time or part-time or in volunteer ministry, this is the first question. So if you're in full-time Next Gen ministry, let's see your hand, do a wave, do a jig. If you're full-time doing this thing, okay. There's a few of us. All right, if you're part-time, you can define part-time, whatever that is for you. Okay, few, all right, awesome. If you're a volunteer, if you're one of the amazing heroes, volunteer, yes, that's so amazing, that's so amazing. Okay, let's get the number of years that people have been serving again. If you have been serving in Next Gen ministry for less than 5 years, let's see your hand. Less than 5 years, anyone less than 5 years? All right, Kevin, got you. Love it, thanks guys. If you've been serving between 5 and 10 years, let's see your hand, 5 and 10 years. There's a few, one, maybe two of you. Okay, between 10 and 20, between 10 and 20. All right, these are all the people who should be leading this call. Awesome. And then anyone over 20, more than 20 years. That's me, more than 20. Yeah, there's a few. That's awesome. Great to have you again. You guys should be leading this. Okay, if you are in Next Gen ministry and serving kids only or kids specific, let's see your hands if you're kids specific or children specific. Let's see your hand. Anyone? All right, if you, one, thanks, John. If you are youth or young adult specific, let's see your hand. Youth or young adult specific, or junior youth too, throw that in there. Okay, a few more. And then if you are all of the above and more, let's see your hand. All the above and more, yes. Maybe some worship, some leading, some doing administration, all doing everything. Awesome, awesome. Well, it's so good to have you today. Our hope is that you'll feel connected. You'll get a sense of what's happening across our country. You'll get to meet a few new people. Yeah, you'll kind of leave feeling inspired to continue doing what you do, caring and loving and serving the Next Gen. So thanks for taking an hour or so and being with us today. All right, hey, we're gonna jump into some breakout rooms in just a minute or two, but just wanted to give you a sense of what's happening with Next Gen nationally. Back, I think in 2019, a group of Next Gen leaders were brought together by President Curvin just to get a sense and a pulse of what was happening with Next Gen ministries across Canada, and just to begin to assess what needs there are and how the national team could begin to meet those. And this team has since sort of expanded, and we put together kind of a strategy of care that we think will help you and other leaders like you, Next Gen leaders like you, to reach our full kingdom potential. And I think that's amazing that we have a team of people that are here and ready to serve you. Who thinks that's pretty amazing? Nobody? Okay. Thank you, Mark. And I know I've been in Next Gen ministry for over 2 decades, and I know my ministry has been profoundly impacted by Mark Anderson, who we have on the call today, Gavin Wark, different people who have been set aside to serve and to care for me. And so that's kind of what we're doing, just in a volunteer part-time role, caring for you. And so one thing that we've done is chosen the Huddle discipleship model as a way to connect, equip, and resource leaders. And so in the fall, it is our goal to have a team member. I'll introduce who our kind of Next Gen national team is here in a second, but to have a team member each lead their own huddle. And we're hoping that it'll include most of you in those huddles. And then in turn, you can go out and kind of start your own huddle with different leaders, whether you're in your own ministry, your own community. And so that's kind of what we've chosen to do to equip and to care and to connect all of us. And we'll share some other details of coming events and a couple other ways that we're going to look to help us connect and to resource you as leaders. But let me introduce the team, and maybe you could raise your hand or give a shout out as I introduce you, and we'll go from west to east. And so we have Krista and Marty Bennett from BC. Good to have you guys. You guys are awesome. Grover Bradford from Alberta. Wave, Grover. Awesome. Finger. Yeah. And then from Ontario, we have Amos Shelley, we have Libby Peters, Genevieve Epp, and myself from Ontario. And so we make up the current national Next Gen team. And again, we'll be the people that'll be aiming and hoping to care for you and to do that. Okay. And you'll be able to meet us because we're each going to be leading a facilitating a breakout room. And so that's that. So speaking of breakout rooms, we are going to jump into our first breakout room. So we're going to be in our breakout room for 20 minutes. And the first thing that we're going to share is a win or a story of celebration from this last season. A win or a celebration or story of celebration from this last season. Again, this could be ministry specific or church specific. It could be personal to you. It could be just something that you found as a church or as a leader to connect with your families, with your kids, your youth in your ministry, something that's worked well for you. So a story, a win, something that you've celebrated and that we can celebrate together. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about that for 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back together. If each breakout room could sort of assign, or one of you could volunteer to kind of take notes and share with the rest of us when we come back some of what you found, that would be awesome. Just so you know too, as I've said, this call is recorded, but our breakout rooms are not. So feel free to share and to be as open and vulnerable as you feel is necessary. So, all right, with that, Marty's going to throw us to some breakout rooms, and we'll see you on the other side. Well, I don't know about you, but our breakout room was awesome, and I got to meet 3 other amazing people, 2 who I already knew and know quite well, and then Nathan, one other who I got to meet for the first time. So that was amazing. Hopefully your breakout groups were equally amazing. So each of us sort of introduced ourselves. We talked about wins. We talked about just stories of celebrations, things that God has been doing in our midst, whether personally or in our church or in our Next Gen ministries. And so we're just going to kind of go around each of the groups and share some of the highlights. If you've got something you want to just chime in on and expand on, do that. We've got just a few minutes before we're going to go to another breakout conversation. But let's start with Krista. Krista, I don't know if it's you or if you assign somebody to share some of the highlights from your group. Why don't you go ahead?
Yes, so I failed to pass it off. I'll do it for the next one. But I did write some notes, and I'm super excited to share. We had just an awesome group, and God's been doing amazing things. The themes that I heard are just intergenerational connections, where we've got these like little people and these older people connecting in really surprising and amazing ways. One of the things that one church did is for Sunday school, they started making 3 to 5 minute clips with their young kids and embedding them into the services, the online services. And the seniors are just loving watching these little kids. And one of the cool things that came out of that is a grade 2 actually started a YouTube channel because he discovered these leadership gifts that he is just like thriving in. So I love that. Another one of our churches has some older ladies who really believed they could never do anything online ever. And they are now leading online video classes, and they're doing pretty good at it. And so they're able to continue using their gifts and teaching through COVID, which is awesome. And then we also just heard stories of how youth are starting to hear from Jesus through this time, which is also really encouraging. So lots of good happening in the midst of all of this.
Awesome. It's great to hear some good stories, things to celebrate, things for us to maybe replicate in our own cities and towns. That's awesome. Grover, what about you? What did your group talk about? Some highlights from you, or did you assign someone to share?
I did what you asked me to do. I follow the rules. So I, who did I get? Alyssa from Chilliwack, BC is our note taker. She did an amazing job because I have the best group. So anyway, Alyssa,
Awesome.
fire away.
All right. So there was a lot of way God worked in the people in our group, and also very different ways. Some similar and some very different. We had one guy who felt like at the beginning of COVID that it was just a drench to the flame that God was building in the youth, and God did a change in his heart for him to be able to see that he's still working in different ways than he thought before. One church took their focus off of their youth group and decided not to have any sort of, well, not any sort of connection. They had some connection at the beginning over Zoom, and that just really didn't go well. So they took their focus away from so much the youth and started working, putting their focus on their homeless shelter ministry, because they're part of a homeless shelter. Awesome. And they provide food and stuff. So they really started honing in on that specific focus and helping people who have absolutely nothing. And they were seeing God work in a lot of ways there. We heard a testimony of how God's been working through more long-term work, and just bringing this guy into a posture of what it looks to truly abide in him and sit back and be okay with where he's at in the world, because he knows that God is working. So.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you, Grover. Thank you so much, Alyssa. That's amazing to hear those cool things. It's amazing when you can take something like this and instead of just focusing on yourself, begin to serve others in your community. And so, yeah, that's amazing. What about Libby? What about your team, your breakout room?
Yes, we had lots of celebrations in our breakout room, and it was cool to hear stories of how God provided, and whether that was through connections that have happened during this time or whether it was financially through jobs. That was an amazing story. God's the God who provides. And the other celebration has just been technology. And I think we can forget that. Sometimes we hate it because we're sick of Zoom meetings and we're zoomed out and we have screen fatigue and we know all those sort of phrases, but that has been a celebration that we could connect, that youth groups were going through Zoom. And the other technology with the Bible app, getting kids to have a Bible on their phone, and that's been a celebration as well, because before that, you brought your own Bible, but having them combine their technology and the Word of God is an enormous celebration. And the other thing that we found with a couple of our groups is that during COVID, during what we might think of as an unusual time, youth started inviting youth. And so non-Christian kids were starting to come to youth group or to church. And as I had said, I think that, I had said to God, look, I've been doing these amazing outreach, bring your friend nights. And once I cut that out and did, okay, we are sitting 6 feet apart on our chair around a campfire in the summer, and we're reading the Bible and praying. Now you're inviting your friends, So to see God's doing a new thing and is reaching people through COVID in situations that it wasn't happening before. And so there's a lot of celebration in our group and in what God's been doing.
Yeah, that's so amazing to hear, right? Yeah, listen, like COVID doesn't stop ministry, and COVID doesn't stop the work of God in our life and in our midst. And I hope as you're listening to these stories, you're feeling encouraged by all the amazing things that are happening across Canada within our family. That's so awesome. Amos Shelley, why don't you share a little bit from what your team talked about?
We actually didn't get all the way around the circle, but we have a couple celebrations of seeing teens kind of mature into positions of leadership. after a period of time in their church. We also have a kind of a health celebration. There's some sickness and a recovery, and just kind of the timing of a hospital visit and such. There's a celebration there. And I think a celebration of kind of a shift in how maybe the church functions or should possibly function. And we didn't quite get around the edges of the circle. But I guess celebrating also the, I'll speak for someone on their behalf, just seeing their position in a new set of eyes for their role in the kingdom going forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Amos. Genevieve, why don't you share, or have your designated person share what your breakout room shared?
All right, Aaron's going.
Okay.
Yeah, I got this. Jen asked me, I hope I remember what people said, but I think I do. We had ministry celebrations and personal celebrations. Some of the really cool things happening in ministries included creating like a video series, doing kind of regular videos and including the youth in producing those, and that's something that they want to continue doing. It's been really, really successful. Another group did house drop-offs of gifts and cards for their youth group members, and we're able to pray for each of the students as they visited and dropped those off, and just a really cool opportunity. For me, working at camp, we weren't able to run camp, so we did a camp in a box, and it was far more successful than we expected. We had many more people sign up for that than we thought, and had good feedback. And then some personal celebrations, just about learnings and changes of perspective, opportunities to move and start new ministries. And one person went back to school, or is going back to school. One person got married to someone from the States, and the residency came in just in time before the borders closed. And so just lots of personal and ministry celebrations to be grateful for.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Some of what our groups talked about, one of our churches has begun to partner in their town with the local Youth for Christ in serving students, offering shared space, connecting with students. They've seen the connecting sort of rise during this time. They're encouraging partnerships with other churches. They look at the kids and the youth from their city, not as theirs, but as the communities. And that is an opportunity to serve together. We've also seen one group, this kind of diverse group with one side, kind of homeschool kids and pastors' kids, and on the other side, these at-risk youth and teens, and just seeing their group kind of unite together, finding space and a place to kind of belong together, and just kind of enjoying that unity. And we've had another group just opening their home up and just becoming sort of a revolving door to just different students from their community, sort of in a safe way, space to kind of drop in, have deep conversation, and just kind of continue on. And how that has sort of just brought a lot of life to their community and the students they serve there. And so, yeah, I think I got everyone there. And anyways, amazing to see, amazing to hear the good things that are happening as we kind of work through this this chaos. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an end to ministry. We just need to reimagine, right? Listen to the Spirit, listen to God, see what He is wanting to do in our midst, and it gives great opportunity to serve others. And so we've got serving homeless, we've got youth hearing the voice of God. We've seen how God provided, people opening their hearts and their homes in a greater way, youth stepping into leadership. We have youth inviting youth, people creating new things, and so being creative. Anyways, I'm kind of excited by that. And so thank you all for sharing. Well, we're going to go back into our breakouts again. And I believe, Marty, we're going to go back into our same breakouts. Is that correct? Yeah. And so for breakout number 2, want to share a kind of a low or a struggle from the last season. So low or struggle, again, this could be personally, this could be in your church or ministry context. And then have an opportunity to pray for one another, and just to hear what God might be saying to you for the others in your group, just to bring some encouragement to the others in your group. And then as well, are you feeling well supported? Are you well supported? And then even how us as a Next Gen team could come alongside you and support you. What are some of your needs, and how might we serve you better? And so we're going to jump into our breakouts and work through those questions. Again, what I think amazing, again, it's amazing to hear people's stories and wins and celebration, and to know that, you know what, this chaos hasn't stopped ministry. It's just changed how we do ministry, and actually has probably brought us back to the heart of what ministry is, and that's relational connection. In a lot of ways, equipping and releasing people for ministry, which I loved hearing. And even in that time, a lot of our struggles that were shared in our group were on the one side struggles, but on the other side were wins, and how God used this time, yes, to bring us through a struggle or a challenge, but actually has carried us through that. And because of that, we're actually in a healthier and just a more aligned space with Him and His mission in our lives. So it's been great to hear. Okay, let's just go around the circle, and yeah, why don't we have Amos? Why don't you and your group share just again some highlights, some prayer needs from your group.
The struggle is obviously a lot of COVID related, since of the isolation kind of timing of schooling and access to resources. The struggle of I think the fear of returning to what will be normal and maybe not wanting to go back to a new normal, and how do we fit in the future as this thing kind of settles out. And some personal struggles, job loss, family issues. So just life with shaken up and a little bit of COVID.
Yeah. Okay. And then any Amos, maybe even just expand. Are there any prayer items from your group that we can?
We ran out of time. Second round in a row, cut off by Marty. Thanks a lot, Marty. So
Yeah,
we didn't get to prayer.
Who set this call up? Jeez, come on, guys.
Come on.
Okay. Jen, what from your group?
Aaron, do you want to go ahead and share?
All right. So our group, the struggles of Zoom, just dealing with honesty and connection over Zoom, and the boredom that is potentially creeping up within it with youth, and having the hard time connecting, and just that desire to be in person instead. For camp, just planning for the future. Registration is right away, and do we plan for in camp as normal, or do we have to plan again for the box camp? And just the financial side of that also is a big struggle. And just the division in people. So how people are viewing the COVID, and then how are we going to move forward when we come together in church, and what that's going to look like, and how are we going to be respectful and be united as a whole again. Looking at that as a big struggle. And so our prayer was just, let us be to the world connectors in a world full of division, and let us try to connect over Zoom in creative ways that we can connect with those youth. And how can we teach and show our children how to be respectful in this time, and how do we get back together? So that was great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Some good things to remember, and good prayer requests there for sure. Grover.
Yeah, let's talked about in spite of some of these low points, there's definite support to process some of these challenges. So as much as relationship is not necessarily as authentic as we've experienced in the past, I think it forces us to lean in and engage differently. Talked about a practice of really ceasing and abiding and taking rest, reliance on God, close friendships, and the structure of accountability and what that looks like. So a lot of times, when we are facing lows, and I know we've all faced them in the season, when there's actually people to turn to, not necessarily dump all your stuff on, but at least just have somebody to talk to and as a sounding board. One mentioned this idea of a healthy staff culture of all things. I want to go to that church. And this idea too of just being on. I love this point. I love this. Being honest with yourself, being honest with God, and being honest with others. This idea of just being authentically who you are, your identity in Christ. Talked about this idea of struggles actually leading to heart transformation, which is the point of low times, I think, for a lot of us. Connection piece, especially in related to youth ministry, has been a bit of a challenge, obviously, because there's a lot of that, they call it just, kids are tired of the screen, for the most part. Talking a bit about just needing energy and, finding that energy to recognize that this is just a season that we're in, a little bit longer than maybe we've anticipated or were told it was going to be. But things, in terms of things that, this group feels like they need, there is talk of what were some of the things? Looking forward to that community that's a lot more intentional and unintentional, and just kind of the day-to-day conversations that take place when we're not stuck in our homes or at work. And for myself and another sort of veteran of ministry, really, really excited about taking a vacation and jumping in a plane and sitting on the beach and doing what you do. So it's all good. We didn't get to prayer either because we just had so many things to say. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it sounds good. Maybe we could all jump in a plane and meet up somewhere together. That'd be fun.
Do it. Yeah.
Libby, from your group.
One thing that someone said out loud and we all agreed was the lows have been going through the stages of grief, and that we all are going through that, recognize it or not, because of all the things that we've lost. And so then another low has been the difference in COVID views. As a pastor, you're trying to connect with both ends of the spectrum. So that's a little difficult. A big thing is just exhaustion for trying to do things new ways. And it takes a lot more energy, emotional energy, physical energy, spiritual energy to think of new ways to do things. And so that exhaustion. A low is also that expectations are not always said out loud. And so when communication is at a low and expectations in that communication is at a low, it's very difficult for us as leaders to know if we're meeting expectations or not, if they're not expressed. We then talked about, okay, if these are our lows, what do we need? What helps? What keeps us going? And so we went around and we said, the big thing for each of us is just abiding. We have to have time out. We have to shut ourselves off, and we have to just wait on the Lord for that refreshment, that time of refreshment to come. That we need worship. Whether we are worship people ourselves or play it, but we need to have worship in our daily life. We need endorphins. So exercise people or not, we have to get exercise, physical. And the other thing that was mentioned was just we need to define what we need. And so God will reveal that to us, but to know, okay, do I need encouragement every week? Do I need people? What is it that I personally need? And so to define that. So then we did spend a few minutes in prayer. Yeah, because our group's awesome. And prayed for each other. Also, because there was 3 guys and just me. So, you know, guys say a quarter less words than we do. But we're awesome.
That's great. Thanks, Livy. Nathan, why don't you share from our group?
Yeah. Surprise, surprise, but I think the big struggle is COVID. Just kind of how that's disturbed life and just the kind of natural flow of the rhythm we had gotten used to. With whatever kind of ministry you're involved in, it's changed. And it's just been a learning curve, I think, for a lot of people on how to actually, what's the next step? How do we go from meeting in person to Zoom? How do you do that effectively? Or how do you, if you're struggling, how do you reach out for support? And just kind of turning, there's so many worldly, not great options to turn to, right? Versus that people, it's a social norm now for people to turn to those kind of things. Something that actually was said in our group that I thought was awesome was we all want to go back to how things kind of were, meeting in person sort of thing, but not, when we eventually get to that, not to forget the online portion of it. Someone said that they have people from all around their province, all around Canada, and from other parts of the world joining in on their Sunday morning church service or whatever it is. And if by moving back to just meeting in person, that could exclude all these other people, right? So not forgetting that online portion of it, and continuing to include those people. And yeah, I think just kind of prayer requests are, even just that, being able to continue to connect with the people in the ministries we're involved in, dealing with stuff in the past that God's bringing up, and saying you need to deal with, even if that's not something that you want to, or even just medical things that we just need God to lay his healing hands upon and fix.
Awesome. Jason has got to run for supper. So Jason, Herb, bless you as you eat supper. Krista, why don't you share from your group or have someone share from your group?
I passed it off this time, so I wouldn't be
Awesome.
razzed by Grover, who didn't pass it off this time. So Dan Hamill, go ahead.
We identified a few things. One was the identity crisis that I think a lot of us are dealing with. This is not what we signed up for. Some of us are finding that new part that the Lord gifted us with, but some of us are still trying to figure out who we are in all of this, and aching for the day where we can go back to some of the things we enjoyed, including hosting people in our homes and being together at a coffee shop or whatever. One struggle that we discussed was the struggle of trying to figure out what we can do. You know, rules can be distracting from ministry, and trying to get creative and not get bogged down by that. The sifting through what the priorities are, what is really important in this stage, is something we were trying to figure out. And staying connected is challenging. Also watching people figure out what is important in their life, and maybe seeing people drift away or become less of a contact with your church or your ministry. And finally, one of our churches that was represented is really struggling to meet with the more fringe kids who don't have the same access to the program now that they can't meet in person. But when it was in person, the church is located very close to those in that group. So the loss of ministry to those, not necessarily that need them most, but that don't have the same opportunities.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, we're down to our last 8 minutes here or so before we need to say goodbye. Why don't we take maybe about 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. Marty, you could set this up, and let's just jump back into our breakout rooms. A number of our rooms didn't have opportunity to pray. Libby, maybe you can just re-pray because your group got through everything again. But just take time to pray for one another as well. If you hadn't had opportunity to share how maybe we as a team could support you in your role and in your ministry, maybe take a minute and share that as well in your group. But let's just jump back in again just for a few minutes to finish up those prayers, and then we'll come back just with a couple announcements, and Grover's going to finish us off with a mighty, mighty prayer and benediction. Well, all right, everyone. Listen, this has been a lot of fun. This is probably one of the greatest ways we could spend a Sunday afternoon. So I've appreciated everyone joining. And hey, just another couple ways that we want to seek to support you and come alongside of you. One of those, as I already shared, with these huddle connection groups. They'll be coming in the fall. We're going to send out some more information about that between now and then. But we think that's just going to be a great way for you to support one another and care for one another. But before then, we have Amos Shelley, part of our team, is going to be leading another EMCC Connected call, a Zoom call similar to this, on February 25th, called Reimagine Church, a Family of Families. And just a guided conversation about our current church context and model, and just get us to dream and imagine what it could be, and different and more effective maybe than what we're currently doing. So if you want to be part of that, that's not only for Next Gen leaders, but it's open up to the rest of our EMCC family. But I'd love to see a good number of Next Gen leaders who are directly involved in Next Gen ministry be part of that. So that's February 25th. And as well,
what you just said, Marty, could you just tell me what did you just write?
Yeah, so Amos, this is what you're going to be talking about on February 25th.
What time?
What time is that, Krista? Do you? Yeah, Krista probably has those details. You can find all that information on the EMCC website, emcc.ca. And for time, I don't know, it'll be sometime during the day, just to help you with that. And we've actually started a Facebook group called EMCC Next Gen Leaders that you can request to join. And so if you're just on Facebook, just look up EMCC Next Gen Leaders and request to join. Again, you can use this page to connect, ask questions, resource, and equip one another as we join in community. And if you guys know about the Enrich page, Enrich is kind of like your one-stop shop for resourcing and connecting. And soon in the future, we're going to have a Next Gen page there. And again, you can look there for anything from spiritual formation, discipleship, to gender identity, and how you can participate further in mission. So sign up for the 25th with Amos, and then go on Facebook and what is Facebook? And request to join the EMCC Next Gen leadership. So it's been good to be together. So where are you, Grover? Why don't you lead us in a prayer? Or Christy, you put your hand up.
Really quick, Amos, it'll be 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. for our Ontario folks. So Amos, make sure you're there, okay? Because you're going to be leading that. And that's going to be great. We're just going to be talking about how important intergenerational ministry is. And he's a great guy to be leading us in that. You're going to find that at emcc.ca/connected. emcc.ca/connected. And if you want to find the Enrich website with all of the resourcing that's been recommended by EMCC leaders, it's emcc.ca/enrich. enrich, ENRICH.ca.
Yeah.
Marty can put that in the chat if he wants, but that's where you're going to find those things, and the Facebook page. So go find all of those resources because they're there for people like you. Thanks for being here today, guys. It's been awesome. And thank you for leading us today, Martin.
Yep.
Good job.
No worries.
And Marty on tech, you did awesome. Good work. And all of you, it wouldn't be much fun if you didn't come. So thanks for coming. All right, Grover, let's hear your big prayer.
Listen,
Anybody else got anything they need to sell?
everything else has been amazing. Grover, we're expecting this prayer just to light up the room here. So no pressure.
Yeah, none whatsoever. We're good. As I've been listening to this, it's been amazing, as has been said. Thing that I think Jesus was saying to me in this context was, in our pursuits for fruit, often it comes at the expense of our abiding and our leaning in with rest. Jesus says these words in Matthew 11, and I love how Eugene brings this to life when he says these words. He says, "Are you tired? Are you worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take rest, to walk me and work with me. Watch how I do it." This picture of imitation. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I know that's something I need to learn in my own life, is just to extend grace, not only to others, but also to myself. Because Jesus says this, "I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you." But he says this, "Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." You'll learn to live freely and lightly. And that's our prayer for each and every one of you this afternoon, is that we can experience what it means to live freely and lightly. Following Jesus is not a burden. So let me pray as we finish. God, thank you for this moment in time we've had. I'm so grateful for everyone who was on this call, the families, the church families that are represented. God, I pray that as we leave this call today, God, that your spirit would continue to do what only you can do. We thank you that you are good. We know that you are good. We know that you are great and you're gracious. So during this moment of uncertainty that we continue to experience in our own lives, and as the pressures of whatever those might be, God, you are so much bigger than any of those things. So God, continue by the spirit that resides within us to do in us in order to do through us. And I pray that you would just continue to restore this place. Though we know that God is doing something new. So I pray that you would give us a vision and give us your eyes to see this world the way that you do. God, we're just grateful for what you are doing and what you're going to continue to do. And we're thankful that we get to be a part of this. So as we leave here now, God, I just pray you continue to just do what you're going to do, and that we be open to what you're up to, and that we'll lean in to the work of the Spirit in our world.
Yeah.
Pray these things in Jesus' powerful name. Amen.